This week it brought up several questions about whether the system in place to protect domestic violence victims worked. The investigative unit's Bess Castley spoke with an advocate about the effectiveness of restraining orders and if these deaths could have been prevented.
Well, Michael, in the shooting at the Tanglewood Apartments in Central early Monday morning, the victim had an active restraining order against her ex that had been put in place the week before.
22-year-old mother, Kaylin Ford, did everything she legally could to protect herself from her ex-boyfriend. And she still ended up dead, deputies say, after he shot her.
We could have helped, and I wish we would have had the opportunity to.
Patty Freeman is the director of the Irish Domestic Violence Center, and she also used to be a detective at the sheriff's office. She sees cases like these all too often.
We'll shelter off-site at safe locations until we can filter those persons in.
Ford was granted a restraining order against Brandon Bell for attacking her in April, just 3 days before she died.
The perpetrators of that are generally cowards.
Freeman says that time period can be the most dangerous for a domestic violence victim.
That time frame within which you have filed the protective order, the defendant has served with it. Generally, we see escalated behavior, escalation in violence during those times.
Despite that active protective order, Ford found herself once again calling 911 when Bell tried to get into her apartment early Monday morning. Deputies came out and searched the apartment as well as the parking lot. According to them, Ford said she would go stay with a friend, and they left.
I truly do believe that had she asked that they remain while she was able to collect her belongings, they would have.
Bell, who had been hiding in the woods behind her apartment, ambushed her while she was leaving, shooting her dead. He also shot himself.
Sometimes there are cases where the defendant just ignores the protective order and does what he or she wants to do.
Defense attorney Ron Haley has dealt with this attitude with his own client, Christian King, who set his ex's home on fire despite an active protective order. Freeman says they rarely stop defendants who have intentions to cause harm.
That's a hard question. The protective order gives law enforcement the means to take immediate action with probable cause. So if they simply see a phone call that is clearly that of the offenders, they can immediately and must by law arrest that offender. It gives them the means to make and take immediate action. Does a piece of paper provide a bulletproof vest or a barrier between the victim and the abuser? Absolutely not. But it does have its purpose.
Freeman says Irish Domestic Violence Center and other shelters have tons of resources for people trying to get away from their abusive relationships, including temporary housing and financial resources. You can find more information on our website at WBRZ.com. For the investigative unit, Bess Casserly, WBRZ News 2.
Louisiana restraining order laws generally provide for a temporary restraining order that is initially valid for a limited time, typically up to 21 days, pending a full hearing. Long-term protective orders can last up to 18 months or indefinitely in specific circumstances. TRO, which is temporary restraining order, is issued by a judge to protect the person from immediate danger of abuse. It is effective immediately and usually valid for up to 21 days. Like I said earlier, could be extended indefinitely under certain circumstances. Now, the TRO prevents the abuser from contacting the person or going near their residence or workplace. Now, there's a full hearing. The court sets a full hearing within 21 days where both parties can present their cases. And the long-term protective order, if a protective order is granted after the full hearing, it can last up to 18 months. With all that being said, this woman, Kaylin Ford, she was 22 years old. She took out a TPO or TRO, and it didn't work. You know, a lot of times, if a person is determined to get revenge, he's hurt that a woman broke up with him, and he's determined to kill that person a piece of paper is not going to stop him. Now, this case is in East Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Now, the deputies are investigating after a man allegedly shot and killed his ex-girlfriend at an apartment complex, which is the Tanglewood Apartments. Baton Rouge Parish Coroner's Office identified the victim as Kaylin Ford, 22 years old. The deadly shooting unfolded early Monday morning, May 19th, at the Tanglewood Apartments on Hooper Road. According to East Baton Rouge Sheriff's Office, Ford contacted law enforcement around 3:20 a.m. because she believed her ex-boyfriend, identified as Brandon Bell, was using an old key to access her apartment. Deputies searched her apartment but did not find anything inside. Ford and her friend told deputies they would stay somewhere else. Shortly after deputies left, they say Bell exited the wooded area and ambushed Ford as she was leaving the apartment. Deputies said he shot and killed her and then shot himself. Wow. So he was just sitting there in the woods watching the whole time. Such a coward, man. Such a coward. Now he's gone and they're both gone now. For what? Just because of that temporary pain that he was going through? He got over it eventually, man. This is just too extreme. Officials said Kaylin Ford, she died at the scene. And then Bell was taken to the hospital in critical condition. But officials say he is not expected to make it. According to the sheriff's office, Bell stole his grandparents' Suburban and used it to travel to Baton Rouge. Grandparents' Suburban and used it to travel to Baton Rouge to kill the victim. His grandparents reported the theft to the Ascension Parish Sheriff's Office, who contacted the deputies. Bell was previously arrested in April and charged with domestic abuse, according to the court records. So here was a man. I see these cases a lot. You know, the relationship is over for whatever reason. She's trying to pick up the pieces and move on, separate herself from this guy. You know, if a person like him, you don't have anything going on in your life, and all you have is this relationship, and you're not focusing on yourself. You know, his self-esteem is probably low. You don't have nothing going on with yourself. You resort to this kind of stuff. You get yourself together, and you have a lot to live for, a lot to lose. I don't think he would do anything like this. This is another sad case. But I wasn't said if they had any kids together. Brandon and Kaylin, it doesn't say if they had kids together. But they were so young. They had so much to live for. This is very unfortunate. But if, you know, anybody out there is going through an emotional thing such as a breakup, you gotta reach out to somebody and get some help, because this is not the way you wanna go, man. I always say that if you can't take it, you have to remove yourself from the situation. You know, I don't care if you have to leave the state. You gotta, you know, out of sight, out of mind. You don't have to see that person every day, and it's a better chance you'll get over this. But I want to say rest in peace to Kaylin.